when I catch you, Celeste. Hi guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm gonna warn you right now, the lighting's probably gonna change at least once, maybe twice. Who's to say? I'm thrilled to bring you the next couple episodes, okay? I'm really enjoying where the show is going right now. Somebody did warn me that it's kind of gonna go downhill. That's fine, because where we're at right now is really good. Let's just get going, shall we? Let's get right into it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. Ring the notification bell, all those things. It helps me out. We also have memberships on this channel for anybody that's interested. There's information down below. All right, let's go talk about some witches. Yes! Alright, so remember how Papa T died at the end of the last episode? Now we're in the cemetery. Monique wakes up inside the crypt and like breaks through the wall in front of all these freaking people. Celeste is there though, so don't worry, she's gonna definitely get involved. Father Kieran has reopened the church finally, and it's like a full house. Klaus and the vampires are there because they're trying to like, you know, be one with the humans and like hold the alliance and stuff. The modern day witch elder, her name is Bastiana. She is there like watching from the shadows. Not good. And then Marcel sees the other witch that we don't know yet. She is in the audience, like sitting in the pews, and he sees her and is like, whoa, red flag, something's horribly wrong, but he lies to Klaus and acts like everything is fine. Monique and Sophie are reunited, but the energy is weird. You'd think she'd be thrilled to see her aunt. You'd think she'd be super excited. Maybe it's because her mom is dead. She's being really sus. Cammy back at the church after service is over, Cammy makes it clear that she hates Kieran and wants nothing to do with him. And then immediately after she leaves, Bastiana shows up and freaking hexes him just like they did to Sean. So like, oh no. Klaus gets a call from Diego saying that Papa T's body has been found, and everybody's like, oh, so it's going from bad to worse. Excellent. Marcel is like, you know, back in the day, the witches would just leave dead chickens on your doorstep if they were mad at you. And Elijah is like, yeah, okay, well, this is a rather large and ominous chicken, wouldn't you say? I think we should be nervous. Rebecca is like, by the way, boys, Monique is back. So that's good. Maybe Davina will come home soon. And Haley is like, I think it's much worse than that. Celeste is one of the resurrected witches. We are in danger. Klaus, because he doesn't know how to do anything at a state of relative calm, is like, okay, well, this isn't just the witches killing vampires. No. This is the witches enacting war. Elijah wants Rebecca to take Haley to the plantation house so she can be safe. And Rebecca is like, you know, if you're so worried about her, why don't you go with her? Also, you're the one she would want to go with. And Elijah is like, oh my God, okay. If you think for 1 second I can be trusted alone in a house with her, you are mistaken. Go handle it. And Rebecca says yes to avoid fighting with him. They're so silly. Their dynamic is one of my favorites because they bicker, but they also have such respect for each other, and I love them. I love them so much. Marcel snatches Rebecca though, and he's like, hey, I saw Genevieve in the church this morning. That's the witch that helped them in 1919. Oh no. Kieran goes to meet Cammy at the bar, and he explains to her, while like shaking and needing like very strong alcohol to like get it together, that the family, the O'Connells, have always been involved in the business of the town. They're kind of like the Donovans of New Orleans, all right? But I like them more. That was offensive to the O'Connells. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. He tells her that he's been hexed just like Sean, and she immediately drops all anger and is like, oh, okay, no problem. We will figure this out. We can save you. There's got to be something we can do. And he's like, no, there's not actually. I'm gonna go insane and probably try to kill you, maybe other people. We should just put me down now. We should just let it be over. Genevieve steps in and is like, if you want to save your uncle, take this knife. And she gives her the Papa T-bone knife and she's like, take it and go stab Klaus Mikaelson with it. And then maybe we'll help you. Haley agreed to go to the plantation house with Rebecca, but actually it was only because it's a full moon tonight, and so she invited her whole family over, like the Crescent Wolves. She invited them over, and they're gonna turn into people and have like a get together for the full moon. She did all of this with help from Josh, and Rebecca finds that out and is like, oh my God, Josh is still alive, good for him. Me too, girl. Me too. Also, I don't think we knew this yet, but we get confirmation that Haley's not turning on the full moon because she's pregnant, and apparently pregnant werewolves don't turn. Okay, thank you. That was information I needed to know. Elijah goes to Sabine and is like, can we work together? And she's like, I will not, nor will any of the other witches do anything with your brother. We'd probably work with you though, because you're so nice and handsome. And she's definitely flirting with him. Like, it's so obvious. She also says maybe they could work with Rebecca, but Klaus is absolutely no. He's awful, scum of the earth, trash man. Monique's having a really hard time adjusting. She's being super weird. As I said, she's very like blank and like wide-eyed and just sort of numb to everything. Marcel comes to see her and Sophie, and he's basically like, I want to know how I can help get the other girls back too. Sophie doesn't really want anything to do with him, but Monique is like, I can tell he's telling the truth. We have to let him help. He wants to help us. So she's got some weird, like, witchy-woo connection going on that she didn't have before. Sophie wants money to help get Monique out of the quarter, like, for good, so they can just leave and start over. So she tells Marcel that if he'll give her that, she will do a spell to help him find the other revived witches. Kieran has locked himself in the church attic, and Cammy is, like, sitting down below in the main hall praying. Klaus comes to her and he's basically like, I understand why you're mad at him. You know, I know he kept things from you, but he was only trying to do what's right for you and your family. He was only trying to protect you. Don't hold it against him. He's a really good man. She draws the knife on him and I was like, oh, she's about to do it. She's really gonna stab him right now, right here, right now. But no, she doesn't do it. She says that even though the witches promised to help Kieran if she stabbed Klaus, she thinks Klaus is gonna win, so she doesn't want to do anything to make him angry. He's like, oh, that's so sexy of you to think that. Thank you so much. I'm gonna see what I can figure out about helping your uncle. His plan is to basically bleed the vervain out of Kieran's system so that then he can try to compel him to not follow through with the hex. Sure. Haley puts laundry out on clotheslines in the backyard, and the wolves start showing up, including the one that has been watching her this whole time. So many, I cannot stress this enough, just like a horde of really muscular, naked men show up on the property. They just arrive in a big group, including Oliver, or Ollie. I have to be careful. I'm gonna wake my cat up saying his name. He is like all about Rebecca. He shows up and from the jump, he's like, that one right there, I want her. The werewolf party is like a huge throwdown. There's a bonfire, there's lots of drinking, everybody's dancing. Oliver grabs Rebecca and like starts spinning her around on the floor. And it was at this moment where I was like, oh, we're in danger, because she has the worst radar when it comes to bad men. And at this point, I've just decided anybody that looks at her can't be trusted, and so maybe I'm no better than Klaus. Haley's kind of annoyed because I think she was expecting them to talk to her more, but they're all just sort of partying and not really paying attention to her, and she's just like cleaning up for them. The wolf who has been watching her is named Jackson. He shows up and he's like, I would love to give you attention. He tells her he's been watching her because he's got to keep an eye on the precious cargo, and she assumes, oh, the baby, awesome. And he's like, no, the baby is, interesting. I'm talking about you, babe. You are the precious cargo. He says that their parents were friends, and given the pack hierarchies, Once upon a time, they were supposed to get married, so he considers her to be his fiance. This is when I was like, oh, red flag, red flag, red flag on the field. We have a problem, abort mission, terrible, terrible, like all kinds of alarms. Haley doesn't seem super concerned about it, but I was nervous. Sabine and Elijah are still out and about with each other, and this is the moment that he reveals that he knows that she is Celeste. He's known the whole time, sort of. He figures it out, and he's like, now I can see that you were flirting with me, and I was picking up Celeste vibes because you are her. He puzzled all the pieces together, and he figured out that she's been body hopping basically since she died. But then she kisses him, and he's like, whoa, what's going on here? And he kisses her back because he has missed her. And I was like, oh my God, I know what she's gonna do to him, but just let my boy be happy. Sure enough, yes, she poisoned him with the kiss. She promises though she's not gonna kill him. She's just trying to get rid of Klaus. I don't know, babe. Just stop trusting these black cat energy women, all right? They don't love you. They don't love you the way that you need to be loved. It's never gonna work. After, draining Kieran a little bit, Klaus gives him some blood to heal him, and then he tries to compel him, but it does not work. So Klaus is like, all right, no worries. Plan A didn't work. I am now gonna start plan B. I'm gonna go find the witch who did this to him, and I'm gonna do what I do best. And Cammy and Kieran are like, yay, thank you. Sophie's struggling to do the spell that she promised. It's just not working, and once again, Monique is being really weird. Then Klaus shows up and snatches Monique to use her as leverage. Elijah is devastated that Celeste would manipulate his feelings for her in such a way and poison him with a kiss. By the way, he's like down on the ground on his knees, like gasping, passing out slowly from the little curse that she put on him. She says, don't worry, honey. Maybe we'll have time for more, but first I have to rid you of your devotion to Klaus. She basically sets it up where Klaus, Rebecca, and Haley are all in danger, and Elijah's gonna be better in time to only save one of them, so he's gonna have to pick. Klaus drags Monique through the streets, and he's basically just screaming, saying if they don't give him Bastiana, he's gonna kill Monique, and then they're gonna lose one of their harvest girls. Marcel comes out and catches him and is livid because Monique, like Davina, is a child. Marcel fights him, and Klaus ends up snapping Marcel's neck to get him down, and then Sophie runs up and stabs Klaus in the heart with the dagger. The blade disappears into his chest, it goes in, he's screaming in agony, and it just sucks into his heart. No. Jackson and Haley are still talking. At this point, she's kind of freaking out a little bit. She's like, married to you? No, I don't think I like that idea. He's starting to become kind of like, oh, it's okay, sweetie. You don't know about this stuff because you weren't here to learn and you didn't have anybody to teach you. Let me mansplain it to you. And I was like, no. If the options are Jackson or Elijah, I think we all know who I'm picking. Get him off my screen. Basically, though, his clan and her clan, I think inside the Crescent Pack, are the oldest clans. And so they're basically royalty as far as the werewolves are concerned. Haley's as shocked about that as we are. Their marriage was supposed to unite the pack and bring everybody back together so they could rejoin the city. And now he needs Haley to focus on breaking the family curse. Yeah, ominous music starts playing, and we realize that Haley's witch friend told Eve that they all needed to gather at the plantation house because the curse was going to be broken that night. And Jackson's like, we're so happy. We love you so much, and that's why everybody's partying, because they're so thankful for you. And Haley's like, I don't have a witch friend. We're in danger. Oliver's making out with Rebecca, and sure enough, he pulls back from her and goes, sorry about this. I really do like you, but this is the deal we made. And then all these wolves jump out and attack her. Celeste is gonna catch these hands. Elijah wakes up to Haley calling him. He tells her they're all in danger, and then she realizes, oh yeah, babe, we have been locked in the house. We cannot escape. There's a fire now. The house is on fire. Sabine is the one, Celeste is the one controlling their situation, and Jackson very quickly puts water on a rag and puts it over Haley's face to try and help her breathe through the smoke because she's pregnant. Elijah runs in and saves her. He thought that Rebecca was there with her, so he was thinking, okay, well, surely I can save both of them at the same time. Klaus can handle himself. But no, Rebecca's been kidnapped and she's in the woods. And instead of running after Rebecca, when he realizes she's not with them, he goes back inside and saves Jackson. Rebecca's gonna kill him. Yeah, she's out in the woods, covered in bite marks, hallucinating on the ground, and Genevieve shows up and finds her. Great. Elijah goes to Celeste, and she says that he made a mistake picking Haley, and now this is a sad, pathetic little end to their diseased family. Girl, knock it off. And she hits him with a final, I guess always isn't forever after all. When I catch you, Celeste. So Jackson has to leave because he's gonna turn back into a wolf. Haley thanks him for protecting her, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it, babe. I always dreamed of meeting you. And she promises, because he's being so sweet and she likes him now, she trusts him, to find a way to break the curse. Cammy and Kieran are out looking for Klaus. Instead, they run into Bastiana. They say, okay, well, Klaus got stabbed, so that means you're gonna take the hex off of Kieran, right? And Bastiana's like, no, actually. Cammy didn't complete the task like we asked her to. Somebody else did it. So therefore, Kieran is going to die a painful, awful, terrible death. Ha 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 ha. What do you mean? She tells them that opposing the witches is opposing nature itself, and by choice or by force, the witches of the French Quarter will rise again. She's scary. Can't stress that enough. Elijah comes storming into the compound looking for Klaus because now he is missing, okay? He starts throwing people around when Marcel says that they can't find him. But Elijah's like X Games mode at this point, right? Because Rebecca's also missing and nobody knows where either of them are. So he's just like, you are going to help me find them, and then I am going to kill every single one of them. And Marcel is like, sure, yep, you got it. Sophie tries to run with Monique, and Monique is like, turns out I don't want to go. Sophie is like, if we leave, you can still have a normal life, you can go to school, you can be a normal girl, everything will be fine, we can get you help, like, you'll be fine. And Monique is like, did I stutter? I don't want to go. And she starts nuking Sophie's brain. I'm not talking aneurysm spell. I'm talking nuking, liquefying Sophie's brain. She's like, the ancestors told me you didn't have faith, and now I know they were right. She tells her that once the 4 girls are all resurrected, they can finally get the vampires out of New Orleans for good. She freaking melts Sophie while she's begging her not to, just dissolves her into nothing and goes, you should have believed. So yeah, Sophie dies in the street and Monique just walks off with Genevieve and Celeste and Bastiana. Our girl Rebecca wakes up covered in werewolf bites, hooked up to an IV in a hospital, sort of. It's a sanatorium, okay? It's an influenza sanatorium from the 20s, and it is like not functioning anymore. So it's all decayed and stuff, but because she is under the influence of the venom, she's like hallucinating how it used to look versus how it looks now, and like going back and forth. She makes it outside, and then Genevieve stakes her and drags her back in. Inside, on another floor, we see Celeste standing over Klaus. He's unconscious and sort of like whimpering to himself. He's like not asleep, but he's catatonic, and he's got like a mark on his chest that's like a red line spreading out from the wound. At the cemetery, Monique is consecrating Sophie's body, and Elijah shows up and just starts flinging witches and smashing bricks and breaking necks. He goes, my siblings have been taken. Where are they? So calm, so chill, so unbelievably scary. I love him more than words. Monique gives him a message from Celeste and then like casts a spell on him, and names start appearing on his skin. Like he rips open his collar and there's like a name on his chest, and then he pulls up his sleeve and there's a name on his arm, and he's like, what's going on? Monique says, to find what you're looking for, follow the path she left behind. Genevieve stabbed Rebecca in the back, right? She pulls the stake out through the front, And she makes it clear that she's the one that sicked the werewolves on Rebecca. This is all her doing. She says they were friends before, and now she just wants to take care of her and make sure Rebecca's okay. We go to flashbacks of Genevieve and Rebecca working in the sanitarium together. She was hiding the fact that she's a witch, but obviously Rebecca knew. She invites her out to a jazz bar so they can be friends, and Genevieve's kind of nervous, so she invites Clara too, who's like one of Genevieve's friends. And Rebecca's just like, don't worry about it. We're gonna go, we're gonna have fun, we deserve it. We should blow off a little steam together. Suspicious. We should always be suspicious of her. Elijah storms back over to the compound. Marcel and the other vampires have not found either Klaus or Rebecca yet. Elijah yells for a pen and paper and then starts stripping. Like as he walks through the house, he's like, jacket off, shirt unbuttoned, tie thrown on the floor. Calls for Haley, and by the time she gets into the room, he's like half naked, taking his shirt off. And she's like, what are we doing? Why is Marcel also here? Why do you have so many tattoos? So he's covered in the names, and he's like, I need you to make a list of all of these for me quickly because we have to figure out what this means. And Haley's like, stare at your chest for several minutes. With permission. Sure, why not? I'd love to do that for you. Marcel explains it's basically like a riddle game that witches use to teach their children. Once you find the answer to the riddle, then the words, or the names in this case, come off your skin. They know that the names are the witches that Celeste has been inhabiting over the years, like the bodies she's been stealing, but they don't understand why she's been doing that yet. Like, what's the point? Klaus wakes up in the sanitarium with Genevieve. She's telling him she's gonna help him. He doesn't need to be scared of her. And then she cuts into his chest and just yanks out the knife. Haley sees that one of the names on Elijah is a Devereaux witch, and she's like, okay, so if Sophie told me that her ancestor is the one that put the curse on my family, if Celeste was actually in that Devereaux's body at the time, could Celeste break the curse? Haley also apologizes in this moment for like putting the siblings in danger, and Elijah's like, I would have picked you no matter what because of the baby. Like, that's what they would both have wanted me to do too. Don't let it go to your head. Genevieve's being all sweet and cute with Klaus. She's like, you never actually did anything to me. I can't help but pity you a little bit. And he's like, oh, okay. So why don't you turn on your friends and help me? If you do that, I'll give you whatever you want. When she then reveals that she's hurting Rebecca, Klaus is like, oh, just kidding, joke's on you. I'll rip you to shreds right now, immediately. Like, immediately he goes into protective brother mode. And Genevieve is like, oh, that's so cute that you think you should feel that way about her. Drink this special tea I made you, and you'll learn the truth. Basically, she links Klaus and Rebecca through this tea that she makes him drink. And because Rebecca is hallucinating, he's gonna be able to see all of her memories. So this is going to reveal what happened in 1919 that Genevieve was involved with, and also out Rebecca and Marcel. So he's about to be very upset with everybody. We go back to flashbacks of Marcel and Rebecca making out in the hospital. In the morgue. You couldn't have picked a different room. You couldn't have picked any other room. It's apparently now been weeks since Rebecca started trying to like befriend Genevieve. She's struggling because she knows what they need her to do, but she also knows it will get her in trouble with Klaus, and she doesn't really want to risk that because Genevieve is so nice. She's like, she's a sweet, innocent girl. I feel bad victimizing her. And Marcel's like, okay, then let's pick a different witch and you can keep this one and stay friends with her. Like, that's fine. That's totally an option. And Rebecca's like, no, I'm still going to go through with the plan. I just needed to complain about it first. You could have done what Marcel said and we wouldn't be here, Rebecca. They then start to hook up again in the flashback, and all I could think was like, Klaus is watching this right now. He's stuck in her head watching this. What is going on? But then before anything could like get really gross, Genevieve comes in and is like, oh no, I didn't know anybody was in here, and is scandalized by the fact that they're hooking up in the morgue. So Rebecca has to like run after her and be like, Genevieve, I'm sorry. In the present, Klaus is like, okay, so the big secret is they've been hooking up for centuries behind my back. I don't really care. Genevieve starts touching up on him, y'all, like sliding her hand up his thigh. And she's like, God wasn't powerful because he was right. He was right because he was powerful. And Klaus is like, I like the sound of that. And then she drags him into more memories. But we, right now, go over to Elijah and Marcel. They are kidnapping a human from City Hall to get records of the witches that have died. Like, the City Hall council people, the faction of the humans, keep record of all of the supernatural deaths that are different from like the normal deaths, and they know they have those records. Anyway, the guy breaks because Elijah threatens to let the other vampires in the room eat him, and they find out that the records are now in the church. The boys head over there, they find the records. Elijah brings up the Devereaux witch, and he's like, any thoughts on her? Do you know anything about her? And Marcel's like, oh yes, she was my friend. We were also hooking up. She was super powerful. She's the one that put the curse on the werewolves. And Elijah's like, bingo. Marcel then segues into, you know, speaking of the werewolves, why was Haley so buddy-buddy with them? What was going on there? Do you think I wouldn't know about that party at the plantation house? Also, thanks for burning the plantation house. Elijah only hears Haley werewolves, I'm figuring things out, and he's like, touch her and I will kill you. Then they figure out that all of the witches currently on Elijah's skin killed themselves, except for Clara Summerland. She's the witch that we saw in the graveyard with Genevieve the night Papa T came to town. She's also the one that went to the jazz bar with Rebecca, who was like the friend at the sanatorium that wanted to go with Genevieve to keep her safe, hanging out with Rebecca. So they've become a little trio. Elijah tells us she died from influenza in 1919. That's the end of the riddle. The names disappear, but neither of the boys know what that means. Except, Marcel definitely knows. Rebecca in the hospital gets haunted by creepy twins. Like, she hallucinates creepy, sick twins in the hallway. I'm not trying to be annoying. Why is there so much twin imagery? What's going on? Genevieve shows up. She tells Rebecca what she's done by linking them, and she's like, he's gonna know everything so soon. Good night. And she knocks her out again. She starts playing music, and as Rebecca wakes up, the music like drags her into another memory. We see them at the jazz bar. Genevieve actually likes Klaus better than Elijah. Like, she sees Elijah and she's like, he's cute and all, but your brother Klaus, I like that he's scary. And Rebecca's like, you like scary brothers? You need to meet my little brother Cole. Bring him back. Give him to me. When does he come back? I think it's season 2, but like, I don't want to wait any longer. This is when Rebecca finally asks Genevieve to contact Michael, but she's like, we have to keep it a secret, okay? And she kind of makes it sound like Klaus will be happy to see him, because she's like, Klaus loves our family and he really misses my brother Cole, but you know who he misses even more? Our dad. Don't tell him. In the present, Klaus starts to cry and he's like, this is a lie. This is the most terrible thing. There's no way Rebecca would ever do that to me. And Genevieve is like, oh, it's so sweet that you believe that, but soon you'll see how wrong you are. Marcel finally breaks down and admits that if they go to the sanitarium, they'll find Klaus and Rebecca. Elijah's a little annoyed that he waited so long to tell them, but he's like, get in the car. We're going right now. He also owns up to Elijah and tells him the whole truth. So now Elijah knows that Rebecca was involved with bringing Michael to town, and he's like, she is in terrible danger. In another flashback, we watch Genevieve do the spell to call on Michael with Marcel and Rebecca in the graveyard. And Klaus sees that Rebecca is like, she has a knife for Michael that she gives to Genevieve to use for the spell. And he's like, you know, when we were kids, that knife went missing and Michael blamed me and I got beaten for it. Horribly, horrific beating for taking a knife I didn't take. And she took it and then she nursed me back to health. Okay. Rebecca like tears out of the memory, and then in the present, Klaus, because now they're not in the memory anymore, he just starts screaming for her. You know the way he says her name. That's what he's doing over and over again, and she can hear him now. She knows he knows. Rebecca is trying to escape and Celeste stops her. Rebecca thinks she's Sabine and she's like, why are you doing this? And Celeste is like, well, by the way, I would prefer if we used my first name, which is Celeste. I like it the most because I've always liked the way Elijah says it. And then she says that she knows now he's just a liar. And I'm like, girl, if you've been around this whole time, right? Like, living in other people's bodies, plotting your revenge. You're telling me that you didn't look into the fact that he's not had any other girlfriends? He was kind of involved with Catherine. That's about it. That's the only serious thing he's had, is you and Catherine. And you know, what's her name from way back when. But like, you're still mad at him. Rebecca is also like, girl, please be so for real right now. Me and Klaus might be trash. You could be correct about that, but Elijah is a good man, and we all know it. Celeste is like, anyway, Klaus knows what you did, and he's gonna kill you, and then Elijah will never forgive him, and your happy little family will crumble, and I will finally be at peace. She reveals to us that in 1919, she was already in Clara's body. So she was flirting with him in Clara's body, and Elijah was flirting back with her because she was Celeste. And I'm like, girl, are you telling me that you're mad at him over that, when the only reason why he was doing it was because you reminded him of her? Because he could feel your energy in her. It's the same thing that happened with Sabine. What in the world? In the flashbacks, we see Rebecca begging Genevieve to take back the spell and stop the effects and keep Michael from coming. And Genevieve is like, oh my God, you used me. Your brother doesn't want Michael to come, does he? This is terrible. What have you done? We have to tell him the truth. I will beg forgiveness, and surely he will forgive me. I bet he's capable of that. And Rebecca's like, on what planet? No. When Genevieve turns on her, Rebecca infects her with the influenza rag. And then as that's happening, Clara comes into the room. Clara, who is actually Celeste, comes into the room. Rebecca sees her, so she has to poison her too. And then they both get put in solitary confinement and they die in the sanatorium. But Celeste just body hopped. So Genevieve died, and there wasn't anything to do for her. But then Celeste just was like, wait, and went into another witch. Klaus is putting all of this together too, and he is big angry. Like, so livid. He hasn't been this mad in a while. Genevieve lets him drink from her to regain his strength. Then she unties him, and it's very sexually charged, okay? Can't stress that enough. I need you to not be surprised by what's coming next, okay? Sexual energy between these two. I don't like it either. She then gives him the bone knife. He almost kills her, but then he's like, no, never mind, just kidding. And he stalks off screaming for Rebecca. Elijah and Marcel arrive, and Elijah's like, take one half of the building, I'll take the other. We have to find them now. Okay, Rebecca then runs into Klaus in the hallway, and I have never been so scared of him. This is one of the only times where I've been like, I get it. I understand. I see why we should fear him, because he is horrifying. She's looking at him, and he's just standing there. He's just standing there holding the knife, staring at her, and she's looking at him, and she's like, Nick, please, it's not true. He goes, I want to believe you, sister, but your face tells a different story. And then he starts following her, like just walking, not running, just walking after her, and she's limping, running away from him, and he's like, there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to hide. This ends now. Meanwhile, outside, Celeste leaves the sanatorium, and she's like, yay, I did it. My evil plan is coming to fruition. As she makes it to the bottom of the stairs, Haley smacks her over the back of the head with a shovel and goes, what's up, witch bitch? It's time for us to have a little chat. Rebecca, for some reason, went downstairs into the cellar, and that is where she gets trapped and Klaus catches her. He's planning to stab her with the knife instead of daggering her, and he explains that it will basically like lock her in a living hell, and it will be worse than being daggered. And she's like, then go ahead and do it. Just do it if that's what you want to do. And he's like, oh, aren't you gonna at least beg for mercy? She does try to run away, but he grabs her and like throws her through a wall, and she lands on a pile of rubble. She gets a metal bar. They start fighting, which is what he wanted all along, because he's just angry and he just needs aggression outlets. Marcel shows up, and Klaus immediately bodies him, and he's like, nice, I'm so glad you're here. Now I can kill you and make her watch before I stab her. She tells him to just kill her instead, because she's the one who came up with the idea in 1919 in the first place. And Klaus is like, you're so loyal to your beloved. You know, if you gave me a fraction of that, perhaps we wouldn't be having this conversation. What did you just say? I can't with the... Oh, he infuriates me. Where is Elijah, you might be wondering? I'm so glad you asked. The moment that Klaus goes to stab Rebecca, he like raises the knife, Elijah jumps on him from behind and makes him stab himself instead. Klaus looks back at him crying, and Elijah tells Marcel to take Rebecca and run as far and as fast as they possibly can. Then we watch as Klaus just slowly collapses in agony into Elijah's arms, and Elijah's just kind of like, oh, thank God, I handled it, but at what cost? We open 15 with a flashback from 1919. The boys are at a bar, they're flirting with a werewolf lady, there seems to be an alliance brewing. Elijah's like super shocked and happy for Klaus. He's like, this is all working out, the city's beautiful, everybody's at peace, this is excellent. And Elijah says in this moment, like, you did this, brother, this is all for you. And then we cut abruptly to Klaus, like, you know, unconscious once again in the bed with the knife wound back on his chest because Elijah stabbed him with the knife. And Elijah's like watching him suffer in the bed, and he's like, this is for you, brother, you brought this on yourself. I love a parallel. So Elijah called Cammy over, and I would like to gently remind everyone that Uncle Kieran is still hexed. We haven't seen him in a little while, but he's just like slowly losing his mind. So don't forget about him. So Cammy's not really in the mood to help with the Michelson shenanigans. And Elijah is like, babe, I'm not in the mood for your shenanigans, okay? And he tells her everything that's been going on, and is basically just like, we need your help because you're the only one that he seems to respect. He'll probably listen to you. He's also probably not gonna murder you the second he wakes up. And Elijah is not wearing a tie, and the top few buttons of his shirt are undone, so like, you know, he means business. Like, he is at the end of his rope at this point. Elijah's planning on taking the knife out of Klaus, and then he's like, Cammy, you're gonna stay here with him, you're gonna talk to him, you're gonna try to convince him not to kill Rebecca, please, if you don't mind, because that is like his #1 priority right now. And if you could also offer him your blood, since you're on vervain, so he'll have to drink it slower. Then Elijah tells Klaus that he's going after Celeste to like finish this officially, and Klaus whispers to him because the knife is like really damaging. So Klaus just like brokenly whispers to him, and he's like, Elijah, you will pay for this. And Elijah is so truly done. Like, I can't express to you enough how much he's just like, We cut to Celeste out in the bayou tied up with the werewolves. Haley and Eve are like facing her, and Haley has a shotgun, and when Celeste moves, Haley just fires off into the trees, and she's like, careful, quick movements make me jumpy and homicidal. And it was a good line. She got me. They're trying to force Celeste to break the curse on the Crescent Wolves. Cammy feeds Klaus, and he kind of tells her his side of things, and basically says that Rebecca has managed to do what no one in 1,000 years has ever done: rip out his heart. We go back to the 1919 flashbacks, and it turns out Klaus knew about Marcel and Rebecca. Like, he was aware that they were together and pretending to not be together, and him and Elijah were sort of like kidding around about it because it was so silly goofy that she thought she could keep it from them. He even goes so far as to give a toast, like calling them out and being like, surprise, surprise, I know y'all been screwing around. Congratulations, I'm happy for you. And they're both just like, huh? Then Klaus went up to Rebecca and basically told her, like, I killed your boyfriends because I didn't want to watch you, you know, waste your time with idiots or get your feelings hurt or have your heart broken. So I was protecting you. That's the only reason why I killed so many of the men you loved. But now he feels like they're safe in New Orleans and they have a home. So he's like, go ahead, be with Marcel, be in love, be happy. I love this for you. I was like, oh no, because at this point they've already called Michael, and I'm like, Klaus, if you could have just given this speech like a week ago, a few days ago, a year, Oh my god. In the present, Klaus confirms, like, at this point, they had already, you know, called Michael, and I was screwed, and I didn't even know it, so I feel even stupider for ever having given them my blessing. Cammy is like, you can't go after them, you're too sick, you're gonna end up getting hurt. And he's like, you know, I don't think they actually ran away. We get another quick flashback of, like, Marcel and Rebecca enjoying being like out and about together, but they're nervous because they know Michael is coming. And then sure enough, when she leaves the bar, Michael is sitting there and he like compels Marcel to sit with him, and they have a very tense conversation, and it's not looking good. Then in the present, Marcel and Rebecca are on their way out of town in a car. They are currently leaving, and they convince themselves that they need to go back and get Davina, because if they take Davina with them when they leave, she can cloak them and then they can stay hidden from Klaus longer, which, you know, good plan. That does make sense. But also you could run and then talk to Elijah, get him to get Davina out of town, hook up with her that way, and you guys could still leave. But no, they turn back around and go back into New Orleans, as if that makes any sense. Elijah visits Monique in the cemetery. He's trying to convince her to help them. He's basically positive at this point that Celeste is gonna body hop instead of actually sacrificing herself. And since Celeste is technically one of the witches that like they brought back, she has to go or the other Harvest Girls won't wake up. So he gives her a spell from Esther's grimoire, like, please, I beg of you, stop ripping the grimoires apart. Knock it off. But he gives a spell over to her that will basically like trap Celeste's spirit somewhere else. We don't know what the somewhere else is yet, but oh boy, it's a good plan. Out in the bayou, Celeste makes like a potion that will in fact break the curse. She says all they have to do is drink it on the next full moon and they'll all be fine. Haley is like, how do we know we can trust you? And Celeste is like, well, I want to get you away from the originals. Like, nobody should be stuck with them. Elijah shows up and he's like, I need Celeste. She can't be trusted. She's lying to you. Haley's like, we have to at least wait until the full moon so that we can see if the potion works. And Elijah's like, okay. And he just takes both potion and Celeste and runs away. He takes her out to the woods and he's like, I know you're lying. And Celeste is like, no, babe, I swear I'm not. This is the best thing I can do for Haley and the worst thing I can do for you. Of course, I want to break the curse. Marcel and Rebecca had Thierry reach out to Bastiana and Genevieve to do like a treaty meeting where like they're gonna, you know, make peace between the vampires and the witches. But what ends up happening is Marcel and Rebecca jump out. They kill Bastiana. Like, Marcel like rips her head off and throws it at the wall, and then Genevieve gets away. Klaus is now drinking to ease his pain, as one does, and Cammy is like, you know, do whatever you need to do. It is very early in the morning, but I see you. You gotta pretend your family doesn't love you. Go ahead. He says that he knows Elijah loves him because Elijah's proved it over and over again. We get a flashback of Michael when he came to town, showing up on Elijah first and basically being like, help me kill your brother, or I'll kill you. And Elijah refused and was like, no. And also he was so scared. They're all so scared of Michael, and seeing Elijah get nervous is always like, damn, because he's never scared. And so the second he sees Michael in his room, he's like, what are you doing here? Why? What's going on? Friendly reminder that Michael's been hunting them this whole time. And Elijah basically points that out and is like, why would I ever help you? You've been trying to kill us for years. And Michael's like, I'm not trying to kill you. You're my blood. That really pisses Elijah off. And he's like, no, I don't have anything to say to you. I'm never gonna believe you, and I'm never gonna betray Klaus. So at this point, they're fighting in the room. Michael's out here using the abomination word. We all know how I feel about that. He's like, we don't talk to them. We don't try to reason with them. You can't change them. All you can do is erase them. Sir, you are yapping up the wrong tree. Be quiet. I can't remember where I put him on my list when we ranked everybody from TVD, but he may be bottom of the barrel when we do the original ranking. That might be what happens. So yeah, he asks Elijah to help kill Klaus, and Klaus gives him the squinty, angry face. So we know how that's gonna go. Cammy, in the present, interjects, and she's like, but Klaus, you're immortal. You can't be killed. And he's like, oh, I wish that were true, babe. And then we go back to the flashback, and Michael has the dreaded white oak stake that we know will kill an original, and in killing an original will kill everybody in their vampire line. Michael gets Elijah up on the wall with the stake to his chest, and he's like basically saying, you know, help me kill your brother or I'll just go ahead and kill you both. And Elijah freaks out and like throws him off, and he's like, I will always choose him. And Michael, you know, complicated as it is, he did mean what he said when he was like, I would never actually hurt you. So he stakes Elijah with a regular piece of wood instead of using the white oak stake, so he doesn't kill him. He just leaves him there. And then Klaus tells Cammy, you know, this is a huge point of like issue for Elijah, and he feels really guilty about this because he thinks if he could have just stopped Dad in that moment, like none of the other stuff would have happened. Then Klaus gets a call telling him that Marcel and Rebecca have been seen out and about, and this is when he reveals that he also has a white oak stake. So Cammy's like, oh god, this is about to get really bad, and she's right. So she chases him down to the street level, and he's basically like, you need to go because this is gonna get ugly. And she's like, look, the reason why I didn't stab you with the knife was because I knew that there was good in you, and if I ignored that, I was never gonna be able to forgive myself. And as somebody who has lost a sibling in a horrific way, if you kill Rebecca, you will simply never recover from it. Like, you're not gonna be able to handle that. I know you think you can, but you can't. She even hits him with, like, a can't you see you're becoming your father? If you go after them like this, you're no better than him. And Klaus is like, oh, you wanna play the father game. Okay. And he drags her away and is basically like, let me show you how bad he really was. Elijah goes back to Haley with the potion. He's like, sorry that I freaked out. I'm keeping Celeste, but you can have this back. It will work. Your family's about to be healed. Yay. They hug, and he kisses her on the forehead, and he's like, I wonder if they know how lucky they are to have you. And Haley's like, oh, thank you so much. Jackson is in wolf form watching this happen, and he's like huffing and puffing, like clearly very upset. And I was like, that's the foreshadowing. I'm not excited. We're gonna have to watch them fight over her. Oh my god. Celeste picks on him for giving Haley such a chaste kiss, and she's like, the Elijah I knew wasn't so meek. And he's like, yeah, well, the Celeste I knew wasn't so freaking cruel. She picks on him some more and is basically like, I hope you don't think Rebecca actually left. I hope you don't think she's actually safe, because she's with Marcel, and Marcel loves Davina, and there's no way he's gonna leave Davina behind. And Elijah's like, please be wrong. She's like, you know, you're so preoccupied with me and Haley, but I bet Klaus hasn't been distracted. I bet he already figured it out. Oh no, poor Rebecca. Elijah snatches her and he starts hissing and like showing his vampire face, which we never see. We never, because he doesn't usually bite people, so we never really get to see him go full vampire. We do today, people. We do today. So he's like snarling in her face, and she just goes, do it. And then he bites her. And I was like, oh, is this how we're getting rid of her? Klaus drags Cammy to the opera house and explains that in 1919, Michael burned it down. So that's how the city caught on fire. We see flashback Rebecca and Klaus sitting together. They're waiting for Marcel, but obviously he's late because we know Michael like detained him at the freaking bar. Also, Elijah is missing because Michael staked him. Rebecca kind of gets up and is like, I'm gonna go check on Marcel. Like, surely he'll be here soon. She leaves Klaus alone in the box. And the second she leaves, Klaus is like, whoa, something's wrong. And Michael sits down behind him. He's holding the white oak stake to Klaus's back. And Klaus goes, Father? And Michael's like, oh, no, no, no. Do not use that word. How dare you? He calls him a bastard. Desperate for his daddy. I was like, don't read him for filth like that. Let him live. He goes, I wonder if your real father would be as disappointed in you as I am. And Klaus is just sitting there like, probably. It's so sad. Klaus gets it together though, and he's like, I'm no longer an animal. I'm not gonna beg for my life. I'm proud of this city, and I'm proud of what I've done, and if you kill me, I'll go to my grave knowing that I at least built something that matters. Michael laughs, and he's like, you know what? You're right, actually. I've been walking around today, and everybody talks about you. Like, you're this great, awesome man. So my plan is to kill you, and then kill everyone in the city who knows you, and that way, no one will ever remember you. Yay! Opera starts, and Michael's like, I think you're really gonna enjoy the show. I made some alterations in your honor. And when the curtain opens, we see a very hurt Marcel up on the stage, the werewolf that Klaus was seeing, because they kind of, it started just like flirting, you know, but they were kind of dating at this point. And she's dead now, so Michael killed her. Along with like the whole cast. And the audience, he's compelled all of them, so they're all just like, yay, this is so funny, haha, I love this show, yay, murder. Klaus tried to save Marcel, but Michael stops him, and they start fighting, and then Rebecca gets involved, and she ends up getting knocked out. So then Klaus is like trying to help Rebecca, Marcel's still tied up. Michael goes to Marcel, puts his hand in his chest. That's when Elijah shows up, and he's like, we have to go, okay? Sister, dead weight on the floor, we're gonna have to carry her. There ain't nothing we can do for Marcel, buddy. We gotta go now. So they left him because they just assumed, Michael, hand in chest, right? Like they assumed he was about to rip his heart out. But he didn't rip his heart out. He takes his hand out of his chest and then just lights the opera house on fire. So I don't know if we'll ever find out exactly how Marcel got out, but he just didn't die. But that's why they assumed he died, because he was like severely wounded, you know, and then the thing caught on fire. Klaus explains to Cammy that losing Marcel and the city really stripped away the last part of him that felt human. That was kind of like the breaking point for Klaus, which makes sense because the Klaus we saw in the 20s with Rebecca and Stefan was like terrible. So it's making sense. It's all tracking. He tells Cammy he's not planning on humiliating, chasing, torturing Marcel and Rebecca. He's gonna find them, and he's gonna get it over with quickly so that he never has to deal with them again. Celeste wakes up in the cemetery and she's like, baby, you didn't have to bite me to bring me here. Jeez. And then she starts teasing him again, and she's like, I guess the always and forever pact wasn't forever, huh? She gets real nasty about everything, and she's like, you know, there's always a new body for me to jump into, so I hope you don't think you won. From now on, every time you feel a connection with a woman, you're gonna worry that it's me. It's giving Silver Springs, 1997. That's what it's giving. Like, if you don't love him, just let him go, because what the heck is this? He runs after her to try to stop her from leaving the cemetery and like catch her, but she went over the warding line, and she says that she locked the cemetery down so that the originals will be trapped inside for a whole moonrise, like a moon cycle. So it's nighttime right now. They can't leave until the next moonrise. Yeah, so Marcel's also in the cemetery getting Davina's body out. Rebecca is with him. When they go to leave, Rebecca can't go. He doesn't want to leave without her. He's like, absolutely not, you're in danger. I cannot separate from you. This is a terrible plan. But she begs him to, swearing that as soon as she can, she'll follow him. Celeste then breaks a bottle on the ground and kills herself right in front of Elijah. And then Monique immediately walks out and is like, you were right, and points to the crypt. Uh-oh. Yes, so Celeste wakes up in her real body. That was the spell that Elijah did. It basically like brought her body back to life. And so now she's trapped in it and trapped in the crypt with him. She's screaming, crying, throwing up in French, right? Because he's scary. He's in like, it's over. I'm the winner. I always win. Haha, joke's on you. He backs her up into the wall. He cradles her face with one hand to keep her in place. And then he just stabs her. Just deep. And she's gone. Bye, Celeste. Her magic goes back into the ground. I was eating it up. Let me tell you, that scene was so excellent. I was so happy for him. I was like, I know this is awful. I know you're really gonna feel some guilt about this, but good for you, it needed to happen. Marcel takes Davina to the church and she wakes up, which is excellent news. It means she was the one connected to Celeste. I'm not gonna lie, I was really nervous initially. I was like, are we absolutely sure that's what's happened here? But yeah, it is actually Davina. She's really back. She's not okay, but she's actually back, so it's fine. Klaus starts chasing Rebecca through the cemetery, so now all three of them are there. Woo! This is cut with a flashback of a very out of control Michael chasing the kids through the streets, and he's screaming at them. He's like, enough running, come out of the shadows so we can finish this tale of sorrows. Elijah is worried, as I said, so he is terrified and he's like running on his own. Klaus has been carrying Rebecca this whole time. Elijah turns his head and is like, oh God, he's coming. And he rips off a metal bar from one of the windows so that he can like do something. Klaus gives Rebecca some blood. She wakes up and she's immediately like, okay, my brothers are here. Where's Marcel? Klaus can't say it, right? The opera house is burning behind them, and Klaus is like, oh. And so Elijah's the one that's like, sister, I'm sorry, he's gone. We have to run. You two need to go first. I will hold him off, and then I'll follow you. Klaus is like, no, we fight him together or we don't fight him at all. What the heck? We're not separating. At this point, Rebecca starts crying and she feels terrible. She's like, Elijah, you can't risk yourself. This is all my fault. I did this. And Klaus is like, no, it's my fault. I thought we found a home here and he's after me, and so this is all my doing. The opera house is burning, worse and worse. The city's catching fire. People are screaming. The siblings are all crying together. Elijah whispers, sister, please, and then he kisses her on the forehead, begging Klaus to leave. In the present, Elijah and Rebecca find each other in the cemetery, and he's like, girl, what are you doing here? You should be halfway across the world. And she whispers, we both know that would never be far enough. This is the moment that I had seen so many times, and I was like, what's happening here? Why is this happening? Now I know. I did not think it was going to be in season 1, just right off the bat, but I'm thrilled to be here. So they're standing at the end of one of the cemetery aisles, and then Klaus shows up, and he's like, get away from her! She's mine! And he's got his hybrid eyes out, right? And he's holding the white oak stake. Elijah's holding the bloody magic stabby knife that he just killed Celeste with, and he starts hissing. But this time, his eyes turn like straight blood red. Very, very scary. Scary vampire face. Then it cuts over to Rebecca, and her veins come out too. So they're just all squaring up at each other. I'm so sorry, but this is where we're stopping this week. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and comment down below. I love talking to you guys each week. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you so soon. Have a good one. Bye.